Before we begin, this story involves domestic violence but contains no graphic descriptions. Focus is on survival and resources. If you're in danger, please seek help. Links below. You know how they say, see something, say something? Well, when I saw my neighbor's bruises, I never imagined where that would lead. The rain was coming down sideways when I first really saw her. I'd nodded to my neighbor Lena in the hallway before, the quiet woman in 4B who always carried groceries like they might explode. But that night, at the 24-hour grocery store, standing behind her in the checkout line at 11:03 p.m., I noticed three things. The way her hands shook scanning coupons, the yellowing bruise peeking from her sweater sleeve, how she startled when my frozen pizza box hit the conveyor too hard. Rough night? I asked, nodding at her cart. Just milk, bread, and a single frozen dinner, the kind you eat alone. Her lips parted like she might speak when… bang! The automatic doors shuttered as Mark, her husband, slammed his truck hood outside. "Lena, move your ass!" His voice cut through the rain. Something about how her whole body locked up, like a deer hearing a gun cock, made the words slip out. If I were him, I'd never let you go. Her head snapped up. For one heartbeat, her eyes screamed what her mouth couldn't. Then, "Making new friends, babe?" Mark's work boots squeaked on the wet floor as he grabbed her elbow right over that bruise. His laugh was too loud. "Come on, the game's on in 20. I watched them leave, Lena struggling to keep pace, their abandoned groceries still on the counter. The cashier sighed and started voiding the transaction like this happened every Thursday. That should have been it. Just another weird city moment. But at 2:17 a.m., the screaming started. Not the kind you ignore with headphones. The kind where you sit bolt upright because your lizard brain knows. That's not anger. That's terror. I pressed against our shared wall just as something heavy crashed. Lena's sob cut through the drywall. "Please, I'll do better." Then Mark's voice, low and venomous. "Damn right you will." The silence after was worse. I told myself it wasn't my business. That's what we all tell ourselves about neighbors, isn't it? But 3 days after the grocery store incident, I accidentally bumped into Lena at the mailboxes. Up close, the bruise on her arm had turned a sickly greenish yellow, shaped like fingerprints. "You okay?" I whispered, pretending to fumble with my envelopes. She yanked her sleeve down so fast the fabric ripped. "Cooking accident." The lie hung between us like a bad smell as she hurried away. That's when I started noticing the pattern. The Thursday routine. Every week at 3 p.m. sharp, Mark left for his bowling league. I checked. The local alley had been closed since 2019. The isolation. Our building super mentioned Mark had lost Lena's keys for 3 weeks straight. Kept her real quiet. He chuckled. The digital prison. Her Instagram, once full of hiking photos with friends, now just reposted Mark's fishing pics with heart emojis. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday. I was making coffee when I heard glass shatter next door. Through my peephole, I watched Lena bolt into the stairwell. No shoes, one sleeve torn, clutching her wrist at a funny angle. I waited exactly 30 seconds before following. She was curled on the landing between floors, hugging her knees to her chest. At my footsteps, she scrambled backward until her shoulders hit the wall, eyes wild like a cornered animal. "He's not here," I said slowly, holding up my empty hands. "Just me." For the first time, she spoke without prompting. "He checks my phone." A tear cut through the blood on her lip. "If I miss his call when he's at work, he…" The stairwell door creaked open above us. We both froze. "Lena? You better not be…" Mark's voice echoed down the concrete stairs. I acted without thinking, shoved my spare apartment keys into her palm and whispered, "Bathroom window," before bolting down the remaining flights. That night, a folded napkin appeared under my door. 2 lines in shaky handwriting. "Please don't tell. 325 Sycamore St." Google showed it was Hope's Door, a women's shelter with 24/7 intake. I spent all night researching 325 Sycamore Street. Hope's Door had a discreet intake process. Victims could show up with nothing but the clothes they wore. Their website listed warning signs that matched Lena perfectly. Isolation from friends, family, monitoring phone communications, unexplained injuries with unlikely excuses. The next morning, I accidentally started doing laundry when Lena did. The basement laundry room was the only place in the building without cameras. Day 3, we were finally alone. I slid a prepaid burner phone across the folding table. "Hide it in your tampon box." She stared at it like it might bite her. "He checks there too." My stomach turned. "Then inside the toilet tank. Just memorize this number." I wrote Hope's door's direct line on a dryer sheet. "Call when he's at work." Her fingers trembled as she took it. "Why are you—" "Because everyone deserves to feel safe in their own home," I said. The stairwell door banged open. Mark strode in, eyes narrowing at us. "What's this? A fucking slumber party?" I forced a laugh, tossing him my detergent. "Ran out of pods. Your wife's a lifesaver." He snatched the bottle, sniffed it like I might have poisoned it, then smirked. "Yeah, she's real helpful." As they left, Lena's fingers brushed the dryer sheet into her sleeve. That night, I lay awake staring at my ceiling, praying she'd call the number. At 3:17 a.m., my burner buzzed. "He's asleep. They're sending someone at 7. I replied, "What do you need?" The answer came instantly. "Distraction. 6:45 a.m. My alarm went off at 6:30 a.m. I dressed in the dark, hands shaking as I tied my shoes. At 6:44, I stood by the hallway fire alarm, watching the second hand on my watch tick. The moment it hit 6:45, I tripped and yanked the alarm handle. The shrieking was deafening. Doors flew open down the hallway as neighbors stumbled out confused. Right on cue, Mark burst from his apartment in just boxers, face purple with rage. "What the hell?" Through my peephole, I watched the scene unfold like a movie. 1. Mark screaming at the building super about false alarms. 2. A plain white van pulling up to the service entrance. 3. Lena slipping out in pajamas, clutching only a stuffed bear missing one eye, a Ziploc bag of photos. The burner phone Mark realized too late. By the time he sprinted barefoot into the parking lot, the van was already turning onto Sycamore Street. He came back raging, pounded on my door so hard the frame shook. "You know where she is," I called through the wood. "Funny, she said the same thing about you." The police found him passed out drunk in his truck outside Hope's door at noon, restraining order served by 3 p.m. Lena stayed at Hope's door for 47 days. We talked daily through the burner phone. She told me the bear was her childhood toy. Mark had burned its ear for clutter. The photos were of her mother, who died thinking she was happy. The phone now held contacts for therapists, lawyers, and a job at a daycare. At the court hearing, Mark glared as the judge read statements from his 2 prior victims, both too afraid to press charges until now. Lena didn't flinch once. Last month, she moved into her own studio apartment, sent me a photo of the bear, now with 2 new button eyes, sitting on a bright yellow dresser. "First thing on my first real shelf," the text read. Sometimes at 2 a.m., I still check my peephole. Not because I'm scared, because now I know the quietest cries are often the ones that need answering most. For another story of survival, watch how Emma escaped her abusive marriage. Link in description.